There are women walking this earth who don't want your money, your body, or your time. They want your essence, the invisible fire that makes you feel alive. You'll meet them in coffee shops, on dating apps, at work, in church, even in places that look wholesome. And you'll think, she's beautiful, she's soft-spoken, she's deep. But what you're really looking at is an emotional black hole dressed like an angel. She doesn't come to love you, she comes to feed. You'll know you've met one when you can't stop thinking about her even after she's gone. Not because you're in love, but because she's implanted herself in your nervous system. She knows how to say just the right thing to make you feel seen, then disappear just long enough to make you doubt yourself. She'll draw you close with empathy and curiosity, then slowly bleed you dry with her chaos, her drama, her endless emotional hunger. These women are not always malicious. Many don't even realize what they are. But their effect is the same. They consume you until there's nothing left. See, most men don't understand how energy exchange works. Every interaction is a transaction. Words, glances, touches, all currency. And some women have mastered the art of emotional economics. They know exactly how to extract maximum investment while giving back nothing of real value. They'll talk about trauma, pain, spiritual journeys, toxic exes, and you'll feel this deep need to comfort them. You'll think you're helping, but what you're really doing is opening your veins. They come in many forms. There's the broken poet who says she doesn't know how to love because she's been hurt too many times. You'll think you're the one who'll finally prove love still exists, but she'll only use your affection as proof that men still fall for her sadness. Then there's the hyper-spiritual woman, all crystals and healing and high vibrations, but she's really just addicted to emotional highs and lows. She'll talk about energy alignment while her chaos devours yours. And then there's the professional victim, the one who seems cursed by life itself, always struggling, always misunderstood, always needing someone to believe in her one more time. When you meet her, your instincts will whisper warnings your logic can't explain. You'll feel it in your chest, that tightness, that unease, that strange mix of guilt and arousal. That's not love. That's your soul recognizing a predator in disguise. Because these women don't feed on happiness. They feed on conflict, sympathy, attention, and guilt. They need emotional stimulation the way addicts need a fix. And once you start supplying it, they'll never let you rest. You'll notice it in the little things. She interrupts your peace with constant micro-dramas, messages that begin with, "We need to talk," sighs that carry invisible accusations, silences that punish you for crimes you didn't commit. You'll apologize for things that aren't your fault. You'll spend hours trying to solve problems that don't exist. And the more you try to calm her storms, the more storms she creates. Because peace starves her. Peace makes her anxious. She only feels alive when you're off balance, doubting yourself and scrambling to earn her approval again. I once met a woman like this. She told me she admired my calm energy, said it made her feel safe. I took that as a compliment. What I didn't realize was that she was planning to feed on it. Every day became a test of how much chaos she could inject before I snapped. When I was centered, she'd pick fights. When I pulled away, she'd cry. When I showed empathy, she'd turn it into guilt. It took me months to understand that she didn't want safety. She wanted control. And control is the favorite meal of every emotional vampire. Men, let me be clear. These women aren't just toxic. They are trained by life to sense your empathy like wolves smell blood. They know the kind of man who can't stand to see someone in pain, the kind of man who wants to fix, protect, heal, and they'll play that role, fragile, misunderstood, needing saving, until you're too invested to walk away. Then they'll drain you of every ounce of joy and call it love. That's why some of the kindest men end up the most damaged, because their compassion becomes their cage. You think she needs you, but what she needs is your energy. And she'll keep needing it until you're too empty to recognize yourself. You'll wake up one morning next to her, feeling like a stranger in your own skin. You'll stare at your reflection and realize that somewhere along the way, you stopped being a man and became a power source for her emotional survival. That's the first lesson about these women. They don't want love, they want life, your your spark, your drive, your attention. And the more you give, the weaker you become, not because you're not enough, but because she was never meant to receive. Her cup has no bottom, her affection has no depth, her gratitude has no memory. When a woman like that enters your life, she won't destroy you through hate, she'll destroy you through need. She'll make you feel essential, then drain you under the disguise of love. She'll call it connection, she'll call it intimacy, she'll call it us. But it's always been about her, about feeding that hollow space inside that no man can fill. And if you don't learn to recognize that pattern early, you'll spend years mistaking depletion for devotion. The women men should never talk to are the ones who make everything feel heavier. You start a conversation feeling fine, and by the end, it's as if someone dimmed the lights inside you. These are the women who never talk to understand. They talk to extract. Every word you say becomes raw material for their emotional theater. You'll notice it early if you're paying attention. The conversation always circles back to them, their pain, their past, their needs. And if by chance you talk about yourself, they'll twist it, either to compare their suffering to yours or to make you feel guilty for having it easier. There's something intoxicating about them at first. You feel like you've met someone who truly sees you. They ask deep questions, they listen with intensity. But what you don't realize is that they're studying you, collecting emotional data. They're learning which buttons to press to get the reaction they want. Sympathy, guilt, admiration, submission. It's not a conversation, it's reconnaissance. And once they have your map, they'll know exactly how to control you. You'll try to reason with them, thinking logic can solve emotional manipulation. It never does. Because these women don't operate in truth, they operate in energy. You can't reason with someone who feeds on confusion. They'll say something cruel, then cry when you call them out. They'll provoke you into anger, then play the victim when you react. They'll twist timelines, rewrite memories, and make you question your own perception of reality. You'll start apologizing just to stop the chaos. That's when they know they own you. And when you're hooked, they'll start feeding without shame. Every interaction becomes an extraction. Your laughter becomes theirs, your strength becomes theirs. Even your silence becomes a stage for their drama. You'll try to explain your exhaustion, but she'll tell you you're the problem, that you're emotionally unavailable, that you don't communicate enough, that you're not trying like she is. And for a moment, you'll believe her, because her conviction is terrifyingly convincing. But deep down, your soul knows the truth. You're not failing her. She's draining you. There's another type, the women who disguise their vampirism behind intelligence and wit. The clever cynic. She's funny, sharp, captivating, until you realize her humor always cuts. She feeds on belittlement, on subtle jabs disguised as jokes. She'll mock your beliefs, your passions, your dreams, then laugh it off as teasing. But those cuts add up. She doesn't feed on sympathy like the victim type. She feeds on dominance. Every laugh at your expense is a sip of power, and the more you accept it, the more she'll drink. Then there's the soft-voiced manipulator, the one who looks harmless, speaks gently, and always acts hurt when confronted. She's mastered emotional aikido. You raise your voice to defend yourself, she cries. You go silent to stay calm, she accuses you of emotional neglect. Every move you make becomes proof of your cruelty, and the more you try to explain, the deeper you sink into her illusion. She doesn't need to argue loudly. She controls you with quiet guilt. You'll see these women everywhere, in workplaces, in social circles, even among so-called friends. Some don't want your love, they want your attention. Others don't want your friendship, they want your energy. A simple conversation becomes a transfer. You walk away drained, while she walks away glowing. You'll start noticing that pattern, how she seems to thrive while you deteriorate. That's not chemistry, that's consumption. And the worst part is, she'll make you complicit in your own exhaustion. You'll defend her to others saying, she's just going through something, or she's misunderstood. You'll cover for her, justify her moods, rationalize her cruelty. You'll become her advocate even as she drains you. Because the energy vampire's greatest trick is convincing you that her pain is your responsibility. Men, This is why you must never ignore the first signs of unease. That subtle tension in your chest when she talks, that fog in your mind after she leaves, that voice in your gut whispering, "Something's off." That's not anxiety. That's your intuition trying to save your life. Stop silencing it. A man who doesn't trust his instincts becomes easy prey. You start doubting your own boundaries, and before you know it, you're explaining your worth to someone who was never listening. You'll think being patient makes you strong, but with these women, patience makes you prey. You cannot fix emptiness. You cannot reason with chaos. You can only walk away before it consumes you. And here's the part most men refuse to accept. These women don't need your anger. They need your attention. Whether you love them or hate them, it's all food. Indifference is what starves them. That's why walking away quietly hurts them more than any confrontation ever could. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just withdraw your energy. That's the only language they understand. You'll notice something about these women. When you stop feeding them attention, they panic. The silence burns them. The peace suffocates them. So they'll test your boundaries to see if they still own your energy. A "Hey stranger" text after weeks of chaos, a sudden apology that sounds rehearsed, or a story about how they've changed, hoping your empathy will reopen the door. But remember this, when a vampire knocks again, she's not sorry, she's starving. She's not reaching out for closure, she's reaching out for food. They'll use your memories against you. The good moments, the laughter, the intimacy, those become bait. "Remember how good we were," she'll say, as if nostalgia can erase the trauma. And for a second, it might work. Because every man who's ever loved deeply knows the ache of wanting to believe in redemption. But you have to understand, vampires don't change through love. They change through starvation. They evolve only when there's no one left to drain. Until then, they'll return again and again, disguised as sincerity, using your compassion as a leash. Some of them are stunningly intelligent. They'll talk about healing, boundaries, self-awareness. They'll sound like they've read every self-help book and gone through therapy. But don't be fooled. They've simply learned new language to mask old behaviors. They'll quote psychology while violating your peace. They'll say, "I'm working on myself," while secretly plotting how to get you to respond. These are the most dangerous ones, the vampires who've gone to school for empathy. They can mimic growth, but they've never felt it. They know the words, but not the music. You'll meet them everywhere, in social movements, in wellness communities, in spiritual spaces where everyone preaches healing, but no one practices it. They'll talk about vibrations and energies, but what they really mean is, "Feed me." They're not grounded, they're floating, disconnected from themselves, and they'll use your light to feel real. And when you run out of light, they'll leave, calling you negative for no longer being their sun. What you must understand, brother, is that not every woman who looks lost deserves to be found by you. Not every woman who cries is a victim. Not every wound you see is your responsibility to heal. Some women wear brokenness like armor. They use their pain as currency, trading it for affection, attention, control. They're not looking for solutions. They're looking for supply. The minute you fix one problem, they'll invent another, because the chaos isn't a phase, it's the ecosystem they survive in. You'll see it in her eyes when you start pulling away. The warmth fades, and something cold replaces it. The mask cracks, and beneath it, you see what she really is. Not a monster, but a void. A deep, endless void, terrified of being alone with itself. That's why she clings to your light. It's not that she hates you. It's that she can't live without the energy she steals from you. I've seen men wither under these women, men who once had ambition, purpose, humor, reduced to husks who flinch at their phone buzzing, men who used to lead, now following, men who used to create, now apologizing for breathing. They lose weight, they lose focus, they lose friends. Their world shrinks around her moods. Every decision filtered through, will this upset her? And before long, they forget what peace feels like. If you've ever been in that place, you know how quiet destruction sounds. It's not yelling or violence. It's the slow erosion of your spirit day by day. It's losing the ability to rest even when you're alone. It's hearing her voice in your head long after she's gone, criticizing, demanding, doubting. That's the mark of a vampire. Not the bite you see, but the wound that won't heal. You can tell a man who's been drained by one of these women. He walks differently. He laughs less. His eyes look older than his years. He's learned the hard way that not all beauty is benevolent, that some smiles hide hunger, that not every I love you means love. Sometimes it means I need to feed. But if you're listening to this, it means there's still life in you, still light, and it's time to protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. You can recover, but only when you stop believing your empathy is a cure for her emptiness. You are not her savior. You are not her therapist. You are a man, and your peace is sacred ground. Guard it. Every time you stay silent instead of explaining, you starve the vampire. Every time you walk away instead of engaging, you reclaim your soul. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you remind her and yourself that your energy belongs to you. And the moment you stop being her food, she'll vanish, because she can't feed on self-respect. It burns her. When you finally pull away from a woman like that, it doesn't end quietly. No, she doesn't let go. She collapses, then resurrects as a storm. She'll oscillate between crying and cursing, apologies and accusations. One day she'll tell you that you're the only man who ever understood her. The next, she'll swear you're the villain who ruined her life. Don't fall for it. That's not love returning, that's withdrawal. Vampires don't mourn you. They mourn their food supply. The same way a drowning person clings to anything that floats, she clings to your energy just to feel alive again. She'll start telling people her version of the story. You'll hear how you changed, how you abandoned her, how she did everything right. It's all part of the survival pattern. Vampires can't process accountability because accountability burns them like sunlight. So they shift the narrative, playing the role of the selfless giver betrayed by your coldness. You'll be tempted to defend yourself, to prove the truth, to argue your case. Don't. Because truth means nothing to someone who lives on emotion. She doesn't care who's right. She only cares who's reacting. Every time you defend yourself, you feed her again. Every explanation is a refill. You'll think about her long after she's gone, not because you still love her, but because she left psychic fingerprints on your soul. You'll remember her voice in the quiet moments, her laughter echoing through your head, and you'll feel that mix of nostalgia and nausea. That's not affection, that's residue. The energetic aftertaste of being consumed. It fades only when you starve it, when you refuse to feed it with thought, contact, or curiosity. Because what you focus on, you feed. That's the rule. The first stage of recovery is brutal. You'll feel empty, lonely, restless. You'll start missing the chaos because it was familiar, because she made you feel needed. But remember, addiction doesn't feel like peace. It feels like withdrawal. You're not missing her, you're detoxing from her. And every day you stay no contact, the poison weakens. You start sleeping again. You start laughing again. You start remembering who you were before you became someone's emotional battery. That's the tragedy of men who fall for these women. They don't realize that their kindness is the very thing that makes them vulnerable. You weren't weak for loving her. You were powerful enough to give deeply, but you gave without boundaries, and that's how she found the openings. She taught you the most painful lesson of all, that not everyone who craves your light deserves it. Some only want to bask in it until they feel warm again, then leave you in the dark. You'll start seeing her pattern in others once your eyes open. The co-worker who thrives on drama and leaves everyone emotionally exhausted. The friend who only calls when her life is falling apart. The ex who texts you every few months to see how you're doing, just to confirm she can still reach you. The signs become obvious. Conversations that feel like therapy sessions, relationships that feel like rescue missions, connections that feel like contracts you never signed. All of it is vampirism, emotional, subtle, and relentless. And the only cure is distance, not punishment, Not confrontation, distance. Quiet, steady, self-protective distance. You don't owe explanations to those who drain you. You don't need closure with those who thrive on confusion. You don't need to prove you're kind by staying connected to people who make you feel smaller. Walking away is not cruelty, it's preservation. Some men stay because they confuse suffering for love. They believe that the intensity of emotion equals depth of connection. But that's not love, that's trauma bonding. That's your nervous system confusing adrenaline for affection. A healthy woman will never make you question your sanity. She won't demand your peace as proof of your devotion. She won't weaponize your empathy. She won't punish your calm. A healthy woman adds warmth, not weight. I met a man once who told me, "She took everything, my friends, my confidence, my laughter." But then he said something that stuck with me. "She taught me what peace really costs." He wasn't bitter anymore. He'd stopped asking why she did what she did. Because once you understand that vampire women operate from emptiness, you stop needing explanations. You start focusing on protection. And that's where strength begins. Not in revenge, not in proving your worth, but in valuing your energy enough to keep it safe. And that's the final stage of recovery, when you no longer hate her. When you see her not as evil, but as empty. When you can look back without rage because you've reclaimed the light she tried to steal. That's when you're free. Not because she's gone, but because she can no longer reach you. Freedom from these women doesn't come with a ceremony. It comes quietly. One morning you'll wake up and realize you didn't think about her at all the day before. The ghosts stop whispering. The air feels lighter. You start noticing simple things again. Sunlight through the curtain, your own laughter returning, silence that feels like rest instead of punishment. That's when you know the healing has begun. You're not numb, you're clean. And in that silence, a new kind of awareness grows. You start recognizing how precious your attention really is, how it fuels everything, your creativity, your focus, your peace. You start guarding it like gold. You no longer give it away to people who only take. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop walking into emotional fire expecting to find warmth. You start seeing clearly the difference between women who shine and women who steal light. The women men should never talk to aren't always obvious. Sometimes they wear kindness like perfume, charm like armor, beauty like camouflage. But look deeper. Look at their effect, not their image. After being around her, do you feel grounded or dizzy? Do you feel lifted or drained, inspired or guilty? That's the test. Energy doesn't lie. If every conversation feels like work, if every interaction leaves you weaker, it doesn't matter how good she looks or how tragic her story sounds. She's feeding, and you're the meal. Men who learn this lesson stop chasing validation. They stop confusing intensity for love. They stop playing hero in stories that were written to trap them. Instead, they cultivate stillness. They learn to walk away early, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. They realize that their peace is their power, that the right woman will never make them question it. She'll match it, respect it, add to it. She'll generate her own light and share it, not steal yours to survive. And when you meet that kind of woman, you'll feel it instantly. There's no chaos, no performance, no guilt, just ease, just flow. You'll notice she doesn't need to be the center of attention because she already feels whole. She'll listen without feeding on your pain, love without controlling, care without consuming. Her energy will feel like sunlight, not fire. That's the woman worth knowing. That's the woman who multiplies your light instead of dimming it. But you'll only recognize her after you've learned the difference. That's the paradox. The vampires teach you what real connection isn't. They strip you bare until you finally understand that love without peace is poison, and beauty without depth is hunger. Once you've faced a vampire and survived, you become immune to their spell. You start walking with quiet confidence, and that's when your light changes frequency. The wrong women can't reach you anymore. The right ones recognize you instantly. You see, the goal isn't to hate women or fear them. It's to discern, to protect your light without bitterness, to give from abundance, not depletion. Because a man who guards his energy wisely becomes magnetic. He stops chasing. He stops explaining. He simply is. And that calm power, that silent certainty, is what draws truly feminine energy toward him. The healthy kind, the kind that builds instead of breaks. So brothers, stop feeding the vampires. Stop explaining your worth to people who only see you as a source. Protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Learn to walk away at the first sign of emotional hunger disguised as love. Choose women who bring their own light. And never forget, your empathy is sacred, your attention is fuel, and your energy is life itself. When you learn to guard it, you'll see the truth. The world isn't full of monsters, it's full of hungry souls. But you are not their meal. You are the fire they could never create. Keep your light, keep your peace, and watch how everything around you changes. If you found power in this message, share it with another man who needs to hear it. Because someone out there is being drained right now and doesn't even know why. Help him wake up. Help him reclaim his energy. And if you want more truths like this, subscribe, share, and support the channel in the link below. The light we protect today becomes the strength of tomorrow. Choose wisely, brothers. Your soul was never meant to be consumed.